It's understandable the mistrust that many black people have because of what happened in Tuskegee. I made a statement and I took this as my platform. Elect me mayor of Tuskegee, Alabama, and never again will we allow the federal government, the state government, or any other governmental body to come into Tuskegee, Alabama and take advantage of our people. That was my platform, and I meant it. But there is no reason in 2021 for any American to say that I'm not going to take the vaccine because of what happened in Tuskegee. In this day and time, black scientists, black doctors are involved in the development of the vaccine. They are involved in helping to shape the public policy, which makes it possible for this vaccination program to be administered to the American people. John Lewis talked about good trouble, fighting racism, fighting hunger, fighting inadequate health care, fighting COVID. It's a war, and you have to fight it just like you would fight any other war. I'm willing to go to jail. I'm willing to die for it. I'm willing to struggle for it because it is right. The struggle goes on.
Support the Black College Sports Network so we can continue to provide you coverage. Go to myjbn.com/support and be a part of the Black College Sports Network. Tell everybody they can follow their dreams.
YT Productions.
Yeah. I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won. Yeah. I hope my team they won. Yeah. Man. I hope my team they won. I hope my team they won. Yeah. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavill, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with the hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson. And you gon' learn today, how your team they play, how they play, boy. You gon' learn today, how your team they play, how they play, yeah. We represent that swag, that MEAC, and let me say, what's up to Tennessee, stay. Tune into the HBCU Sports Lab with Dr. Bill, Mike and Charles.
This is Dr. Cavill with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Professor Bishop and Professor Washington in the building. I want to say welcome to episode 163 of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab radio show and podcast, the show that's covering the sporting HBCU diaspora, all things HBCU sports from the institutions large and small, from NAIA to the NCAA. We share insights and information on the HBCU sports culture, HBCU athletic aesthetics to facilitate the story of HBCU athletic program in the business of HBCU sports. I'm your host, Dr. Kenyatta Cavill, along with my co-host, Professor Washington and Professor Bishop. We're filming from our home studios and sending a signal live to our K-Sway's 1230 AM studios with the Texas Radio Hall of Famer. That is Ralph Cooper in the beautiful home of Texas Southern University from Houston, Texas. Got your golf blazers on. That must mean we're going to tee it up. We must have a big one on today. Let's get it done. Let me say, Charles, how you doing?
Doing well, Doc. Looking forward to it. We about 30 some odd days, a little less than 30 some odd days in some cases, from getting this season on. So looking forward to it.
No doubt about it. How you doing, Mike?
Oh, not bad at all, Doc. Glad to be back in the lab. As CB put it, it's about 30 plus days left. Let the prognostication continue. Let the haters speak. Let us continue to marinate on those words and move forward and get closer to this much anticipated football season. Glad to be here, though, back with my boys.
Man, and Mike dropping it like that today. I see it. I feel it. Today's show will be a good one as we will be interviewing Mr. Samuel L. Polk, that's Brother Polk, about his book, I Only Have an Hour. And look at Mississippi through the lens of a Black college cultural framework. And of course, we will discuss the latest HBCU news and sports. We'll start out with some of that first as we get going. With that being said, I'm going to jump off into this, get your thoughts on this. I thought it was so cool for North Carolina A&T. Trevor Stewart becomes the first HBCU athlete to medal in the 2020 Olympics from HBCUsports.com. Put this out there. North Carolina A&T track star Trevor Stewart secured a bronze medal for the United States in the Olympics inaugural mixed 4x400 meter relay in Japan. What are your thoughts on this, Charles?
Yeah, really exciting. I mean, when you take a look at what North Carolina A&T track has done over the past few years, for them to put their name out there on the international stage, this is huge for HBCUs, huge for North Carolina A&T's program. So kudos to Trevor Stewart for getting it done.
No doubt about it. Mike, what are your thoughts?
Oh, I concur with my guy CB. This is huge for North Carolina A&T, but they've been up there at the top of the apex for HBCU track and field. But with this latest Olympic trials and this latest NCAA finals, man, they've kind of ascended to the upper regions. And so this chapter is not finished. So he still has to join Mr. Ross Jr. and they have another event coming up. But this has done huge things for HBCU track and field, not just only North Carolina A&T. You have a few others that have still had their opportunities to shine. So
exactly. Let me jump in here and give some love to the lecture listeners out there in the lab, ready for it. Let's see. Charles went off on the last show. He went into the Lyceum mode. I was like, man, who is Professor Bishop? I was like, all right, okay, I see you. Let me give a shout out to the folks out there talking about lecture time. Michael Ford, Chuck Hunt, Kay Johnson in the building. We got Kay Johnson doing a shout out for us. We appreciate it. Troy Coleman is in the house talking about A&T 30 days. Witness the magic that will be North Carolina A&T State University Aggies football. Hashtag watch us work. I like that. Nice job. Troy, I see you putting in that work yourself. Jerome G. Sutton says he got the 2 eyeballs with the snake on the loose. Rattler Mania is in the building. Ricky Burden, we in the lab, ready for the lab. Yes. Karen Griffin said lab time. No doubt about it. We got Wendy Jenkins Bishop talking about I saw her other Kay Johnson. I like that. Sorority love in the building high. Lab fanatics. Yes, let's get it in there. Lab fanatics getting it done. Barry Williams showing us some love. Big time SU alumni in the house. Big time booster as well. Reggie Boston, he gonna always represent nothing but that CIAA is in the house. I saw what you put up there with Luke, Reggie. That was great information about the MEAC. We'll get in a little bit about there as well before we dig deeper in terms of the poll rankings are released today. Yes, I just teased that out there a little bit. Top 10 poll rankings. We might have some time to give you that. We'll see in the second half of the show after we get this great interview. Demetrius Gatewood is in the house. Also, congratulations to Gatewood, McNeese State, putting in their work. Good evening, professors from Baton Rouge, and go Jags, no doubt about it. That's Chad Cooper. Keep it coming. We'll give you some shout outs before we turn it off. Keep the conversation. You know how we do it in the lab. We bring it, you all discuss it, break it down. If you need something, you want something, put it up there and let us know your thoughts on all things HBCU sports, because that's what we do. With that being said, you know, you had the MEAC Media Day, and you got some love for some folks out there. Before we get into that, Charles, you have some updates, some thoughts that you wanted to share, get off your chest today?
Yeah, well, I mean, we're going to talk plenty of football, no doubt about it, but let me sneak in a little bit of golf. Willie Mack III, he wins the Billy Horschel APGA Invitational, Bethune-Cookman alumnus, and did a tremendous job this past weekend. Shot a -6 for the tournament, earning the top prize of $25,000 in the process. The $80,000 purse this week was the largest in the APGA Tour history. So 2-day wire-to-wire deal for Willie Mack III, as he has been one of the more successful golfers on the APGA Tour. So kudos. Shout out to Bethune-Cookman. Willie Mack getting it done.
No doubt about it. I knew you wanted a little bit of that. I said that over when I seen it. You saw you smiling through the phone. I said, look at it. I like to see that. That was good stuff. Getting it done for Bethune-Cookman, representing on the golf course for HBCUs. Mike, you got some news out there on the basketball side of things?
No, yes, actually, I do on the basketball side of things. But I don't know if you've heard, maybe you haven't, but there is a new classic out there, and it is the Chris Paul Tip-Off Classic. So that is coming up. I have the dates. Trying to look forward to the dates as well. The SIAC has kind of an announcement as well with Nike. I'm trying to slip in two in there because you don't give me much time. So before I get to that, that was my thing, the Chris Paul tip-off. But SIAC and ESPN announced a multi-year sports agreement as well. So I wanted to make sure I know we talk about the SWAC and the MEAC, but the announcement came out that they've announced that they've reached a multi-year sports agreement. So that will feature SIAC football and basketball games through 2027. And that's the Southern Intercollegiate Athletic Conference. So beginning in the fall of 2021, ESPN will feature at least 22 football games across ESPNU and ESPNU Plus, including the SIAC Football Championship. So in addition, the ESPN platform will have the exclusive rights to all men's and women's basketball championship preliminary rounds on ESPN Plus and the SIAC men's and women's basketball championship. So tremendous relationship there. ESPN is already set to showcase the SIAC Week 1 contest 2021 college football season with the inaugural Red Tails Classic, a college event between, guess who? Yep, Tuskegee and Fort Valley. So, and that there's a little bit of history there because you have Tuskegee, home of the Tuskegee Airmen, but you have Fort Valley, and you're like, what do they have with the Red Tail Class? Well, Tuskegee is about 30 minutes from Warner Robins Air Force Base. There's a museum there that features one of the best exhibits of the Tuskegee Airmen. So the fact that they're playing there brings kind of a little historical perspective as well to that inaugural contest. So looking forward to that. So the announcement, many of you have heard it, but I wanted to give kudos to that. My wife also gave me a little nudge. You better mention that. So, because she's from Warner Robins, her dad teaches at Fort Valley. So I had some familial, basically encouragement to mention that first. So I apologize, but I had to mention that first, or I wasn't going to eat tonight.
Professor Bishop, did he just squeeze like all that in?
Hey, that was so smooth. I love the way he snuck that in there. Way to go, Mike. I always get kudos at home, man. You can't. You got to do that, baby.
That was pretty nice. I was like, did he really do it? Just didn't. Well, with that, let me give you some more shout outs here. Dwight Moore says, good evening, Bean, and the professors from the lab. From the Big D Go Jags. I see Professor Washington declined an assignment from the lab today. awaiting the lacrosse, golf, soccer, etc. insight. Wait, he snuck in everything else. So I don't know about all that, but let me give some more out there. The other NBA news was Morgan State's Troy Baxter signs with the Bulls from MorganStateAthletics.com. 2020 NBA draft came. He was not drafted, but he signed a free agent deal in terms of an undrafted free agent. Big news in terms of the NBA. So glad to see that. Hope he gets to find a way to stick with the team and gets it done. That's pretty big news when you talk about Troy Baxter getting it done for the Morgan Bears. He was solid as a forward in terms of what he was able to get done. Baxter Sr. recorded his 6th 20-point performance of the year against Norfolk State. We saw Norfolk State get it done in terms of tournament. He put up 20 and scoring a game-high 21 points in Hill Fieldhouse at home when he got it done in terms of what he's doing there. So he's been solid. But let's take a break here. This is Dr. Bill inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Stick with us. We'll be right back after this quick break. Hey, Mike.
When you're looking for the latest information on Southern University sports, the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and HBCU athletics, there's only one place to go. Tune in to the Carlos Brown Show, exclusively on the Black College Sports Network.
Can I get the now bar, please?
$1.
Have a good one.
Got it.
Hey, what's going on?
Hey.
Let me get a now bar.
Sure. $1.
Appreciate you.
Got it.
Thank you guys for what you do for HBCU athletics. This is a fantastic avenue for all of us. This is our ESPN, so we love what you guys do. Brian, AD, Roy, all you guys at BCSN. We really appreciate what it is that you guys do for us.
Since 2002, Empowerment Resources, Inc., a nonprofit organization, has empowered more than 1,500 youth and adults in Duval and surrounding counties. Through its programs, Journey into Womanhood, Girls Mentoring, Life Skills for Teens, and Parenting Education Coaching. To get involved with programs, volunteer, or donate, visit www.empowermentresourcesinc.org. Follow us on social media, facebook.com/empowerment.resources and instagram.com/empowermentJAX.
It's like a loot machine. All around town, people trying to get down.
This is Dr. Bill with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with our guest, Brother Samuel Polk Jr. in the house. How you doing, Brother Samuel?
I'm pretty good, man. I thank you guys so much. It's such an honor. Dr. Caville, you are my go-to for HBCU intelligence. And I really enjoy listening to you, the way you break things down, the way you frame things. Brother Bishop is my source for the Tigers and everything I need to know. And Brother Mike, love the work that you do, and it's such an honor to be here.
No, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you.
I was going to let him stop at the first part. You said about Dr. Caville, you heard that the framework?
Yes, sir.
Now y'all going to get quiet. Now y'all going to get quiet on me.
Yeah. His head has gotten big. You shouldn't have said all that. His head has gotten big.
It's hard to keep the office cap on with the head so big like that. I'm put the check in the mail, send him some fraternity gear. You know how the brothers do.
Oh, I'll take it. I'll take it.
We'll do that real right. He says, I only have an hour. It is a book that is an exploration of the state of Mississippi and its historic, oppressive, and racist past. In the middle of looking at HBCU, so I have some really good questions I want to get into. But before we do that, let's make this fair for those that may not know you and your exploits in terms of what you get done. Tell them where you're from and obviously your HBCU connection with Lane College. Talk
Yes,
about that a little.
Yes, sir. I'm originally from Jackson, Mississippi, born and bred. Grew up a huge fan of the Jackson State University Tigers, but also Alcorn Braves and the Delta Devils. I think I grew up in a place just perfectly located to catch that last great walk in the sun, as Dr. John Henry Clark would say. I grew up admiring the coaches, the teams, the bands, even the mascots. And it created in me a desire to want to, I guess, encapsulate those stories for future generations. Academically, I would be what you would call a sociologist. I try to keep those sociological traditions going in the Du Boisian tradition. History kind of as a byproduct. You can't do good sociology unless you can do a little history. Found myself in another Jackson, Tennessee, where I got to play for the Lane College Dragons. And that was a pleasure to play against some of those teams that I watched growing up, namely the Delta Devils. That was something else, and Texas Southern as well. And what I tried to do is try to correct history, tell a good story so that people be intrigued and listen, and try to get as many of our legacies, our memories, our histories that will die with us if we don't keep them, preserve them, and tell them to future generations. I have a podcast called the Melanated Power Hour, where we focus mainly on diasporic history. And that's anywhere that Black people are, whatever they're into, we want to tell those stories of brilliance and excellence. Also, not so much the good stuff, because you got to study that as well. But I would consider myself an activist, a writer, and pretty much that's what I do. And it's a labor of love.
Yeah, I've enjoyed your podcast in regards to the streaming platform, obviously.
Yes, sir.
Melanated Hour in terms of Power Hour in regards to how you hit poignant points while
yes, sir.
tapping on the history, but the sociology part of what you do is really reaching for me. So I just wanted to say that. But with that, before we get into the book a little more, and I get a chance to pass the mic, because Charles was so excited after reading the book, so I could tell it took him back as well.
Yes.
And there were that took me back in Texas. So even though it's about Mississippi, you talk about other schools, but also for folks that grew around with HBCUs at a young age, it's going to resonate with them within their state, in their city in a lot of ways. So that was particularly interesting to me. But before we dig in it, as I said, a little more, can you name some of your teammates or anybody that people may recognize that came out of the lane during the time you were there?
Oh, man. Jason Brookins with the Baltimore Ravens. If you remember that episode of what's the HBCU documentary where they followed the team through summer camp? I can't remember the name of it, but they follow a different team every week. Jason Brookins was spotlighted on that. They wanted his playbook. Yeah. He thought it meant go home. They just wanted some more plays. And the great Fred Lane, Carolina Panthers standout. I tell you an interesting story about Jason Brookins. I get them confused. They both hit me so hard I can't quite remember some things. But we was in a tackling drill one time, and it was me and Jason Brookins in them cones. And Jason came through there and he hit me. I got him on the ground. He ran straight over top of me. And the coach said, "Don't worry, son. That kid's gonna play on Sunday one day." And that's the very moment I realized I was not. But the great Ryan Bell, who played Canadian League and arena football, and Jacoby Jones, the Super Bowl MVP. I didn't get to play with him. He's a little younger than I, but there were some good ball players that came through Lane. Yes, sir.
No doubt about it. And that was during your period or shortly afterwards. So, but you talk about the rich history of Mississippi in a lot of ways. So we're going to get back to that. But I thought that was fascinating. I wanted you to give a little shout out to Lane College. SIEC.
Oh, absolutely. Dragons. And
right.
They got us predicted last, but
near and dear to your heart.
Surprise to people.
There you go. Let them know. And we'll bring you back out the season to give us some updates, because we cover all HBCUs, obviously. in so many different ways. But I wanted to ask this question particularly, but before I do that, I'm gonna let Mike jump in here and ask a question.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate it, man. I normally don't even get this opportunity to speak first. And this is a Mississippi, so in all seriousness,
I'm the best last, Mike. You just messed it up.
Is that what it is? You saving the best for last? So, in all seriousness, I haven't had a chance to read the book. I started doing some research when I heard about it, but it conjured up thoughts of Texas, and I can speak more to that. And
Yes,
I grew up with parents talking about the old days with the TSU relays. And if you listen to the old time, just sit down, shut up, and listen to them talk about who played for this school and who played for that school. This conjured up thoughts. So let me ask you, when you thought of this book, it's kind of like that movie Brown Sugar, when I don't know if you've seen it. They asked the question, mm-hmm. So when did you fall in love with hip hop? So let me ask you, when did you first fall in love with this history? What moments conjure up, and when did you think of this book? At what point and what moments came to the forefront? Because this is incredible.
Yes, sir. To answer the first question, the moment I fell in love with black college football was 1979. I was 3 years old, and my father took me to a football game, and it spoiled me. It was Jackson State University versus Southern University. Final score 34-0 Tigers. I always a pleasure to say that. But the atmosphere, the sights, the sounds, the two best bands, in my opinion, ever in existence. I witnessed all that as a 3-year-old. I was hooked.
Wow.
The time that I thought to write the book is about 3 years in the making. Talking to younger people, you know how you can watch a movie like Friday, and a kid will see Ice Cube, and then he'll see Ice Cube rap, and he'll say, Ice Cube used to rap? And so talking to young kids, listening to the way that they talk about HBCU football in comparison to what they saw on TV, gave me the inspiration to write this book. Like, son, you don't know what you're talking about. I saw black college teams that had 7 NFL players on each side of the ball. I saw Jerry Rice. I saw Steve McNair. I saw Tim Barnett, Jimmy Smith, Vincent the Undertaker Brown, you name it, and some of the greatest minds in coaching ever. So I just had a desire to let those who missed that last great walk in the sun know that it wasn't always this way, and it looks like it's returning. So hopefully we can get back to it. But I just could not stand to hear young people who had absolutely no clue about the history of black college football disparage it in such a way. So I had to let them know in writing. Yes, sir.
Awesome. Thank you.
I hope that wasn't too long-winded.
No, that was perfect. I thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Charles, jump on in here.
Bro Polk, I have to tell you, this was such a completely cathartic experience reading this book. I think I got so excited. I inboxed you in the middle of the night, but I was reading it, but it is so, it's so completely in lockstep with my childhood.
Yes, sir.
And there were images that you conjured up. I kind of got a little misty just reading the book, because that was our experience growing up in Jackson.
Yes, sir.
When you're coming from North Jackson and you're going to the stadium lights kind of come up out of the horizon. And whether you're going up State Street or you're going up West Street, you get these chill bumps, because
yes, sir.
You know that there's this event about to take place, and the stadium lights kind of give you that sort of that sense of you're entering something big, something bigger than you. And yes, I just enjoyed so much that you wrote in here, capturing that experience that we both had.
Yes,
all the way back, you talked about playing in Holy Family, and I looked, I was like, he played football at Holy Family. For us, as having these heroes around the SWAC, we played elementary football. Every elementary had this football team, and you emulated everything about these SWAC teams. Not so much Mississippi State, Ole Miss or USM, but I wore 33 not because of Tony Dorsett, but because of Sylvester Zip Code stamps. So that was our sort of framework. I can't say enough how much I just enjoy the experience, not only of you capturing that, but you also introduced the civil rights aspect and melded it into the book. And you mentioned people that I've heard my parents talk about when you talk about C.O. Chin.
Yes, sir.
And E.W. Steptoe. Talk about those people, because they aren't the most recognized names of the civil rights movement, but they are larger than life people in the state of Mississippi.
Yes, sir. Brother Bishop, I really appreciate that. That's the biggest praise that I can get. If someone like yourself who experienced those moments, to be able to have that kind of impact on them. Someone like C.O. Chin, E.W. Steptoe, Vernon Dahmer, those are legends of the Mississippi civil rights struggle that we don't hear much about. I grew up blessed enough to be around family members who knew these men and worked with these men. So I always heard these stories, and I was like, they have to be told. Someone like an E.W. Steptoe or a C.O. Chin would literally turn your idea, your concept of the civil rights struggle on its head.
Yeah.
Charles E. Cobb, the great writer from Washington, D.C., came to Mississippi back in the 60s, and he lived with these men. And these men did not believe in nonviolence. They carried guns, and Charles Cobb would tell you the reason he and people like Brother Moses, who just passed away, the reason they lived to a ripe old age is because Brother C.O. Chin and E.W. Steptoe protected them.
Yeah.
I think this new generation who wear these shirts, I don't know if you've ever seen them, they'll say, "I'm not my ancestors, I'll throw these hands." You need to throw that shirt away because you don't know much about the ancestors. We had men and women who had this idea that nonviolence is great in theory, but alone on a dusty road in Mississippi trying to get my children home, I got another kind of theory for you. You know, understand what I'm saying? And when you hear, when I would be told by my grandfather about men like Medgar Evers and Charles Evers, he would always end it with, he played for Alcorn, don't you? Or they would be talking about Vernon Dahmer, and they say, he was at the Alcorn games, man. The two pillars of Black history, HBCU sports, HBCUs in general, and our civil rights struggle. With me, there was never a separation. They were always meshed together. I remember Brother Bishop sitting in Memorial Stadium watching a football game, and an older gentleman that my father knew would be telling me about, he remembered when W.C. Gordon challenged the system going to register to vote. And they gave him some kind of test where he had to count, guess how many jelly beans was in a jar. And he failed, and he had the courage to come back with his wife, and he just kept coming until they gave him a registration card. These are not only the football game, but the history of our past, our great past, as African Americans, specifically, not just specifically in Mississippi, but all over the South, was a story that I wanted to juxtapose together, meaning that we can chew bubblegum and walk at the same time. I could get this story out to young people about the greatness of our football past, like 1967, Jackson State having 11 players drafted once. Unheard of, right?
Yeah.
And tell the story of Charles Evers, who was a standout center at Alcorn, and his younger brother Medgar, who was a heck of a halfback. And how many, even people who have heard of Medgar Evers, how many of them knew he played HBCU football? So this was a story I thought needed to be told, and I just hope people got what I was trying to do. And I hope it's received well.
Oh man, I tell you, I was so excited and moved reading so much about it. And you make a great point in this book, because growing up, And I talk about this all the time. I say it's kind of a Shangri-La sort of childhood, but we had Jackson State, Alcorn, and Mississippi Valley. And you talk about that last great walk in the sun. We really didn't turn our attention towards Mississippi State or Ole Miss.
No.
Or, you know, for all of us growing up, those were our teams.
Absolutely.
And it was, you know, those were our heroes. I mean, I wanted to be Larry Cowan. The Sylvester Zipco. You mentioned the 1987 Jackson State linebackers.
Ooh.
Oh my God! I mean, those were, Black masculinity. It was just so much in it. I just get so excited even talking about the book. So
yes, sir.
I love it.
Yes, sir.
The way you frame that, the Black masculinity and the Black college cultural framework, taking it in there. And for those who don't know, I got a chance to write the foreword. So the book is masterful, and in reading the framework, it gave me the ability to write a foreword that I hope appreciate too. So the last thing I have,
really appreciate that.
We're gonna get to this break right after this, but I want to leave this with the viewers, is to tell us why the title, and I think for some it's evident, but why the title, I Only Have an Hour, and then tell them again how they can get the book.
Yes, sir. I only have an hour is kind of a play on words. Anybody that, number one, watches my podcast knows that we are allotted an hour. And my co-host, comedian Just Will, gets kind of angry with me because we get fined often because we always go over an hour. So he started warning me, saying, hey, we about at an hour. And I would get mad and I would say, I only have an hour. Before an hour, I'm going to give you all I got. But there's 60 minutes in a football game. You can sit in the barbershop for 60 minutes around those old Black gentlemen and get 6 years worth of history lessons. So I only have an hour is just something that me and my cohorts always banter around. Polk, you only got an hour. So that's where that came from. The book can be found on Amazon Books. Just type in I only have an hour, and it should pop up for you. And I'm so thankful. Sir, I didn't hear you.
No, I was just telling you to hold the book up. That's great. And I appreciate that. Go to Amazon, get the book. And I certainly need to make sure when we catch up that you sign mine. I have the book, excited about that. We'll be right back after this break. I hope you enjoyed our interview with Brother Samuel L. Polk with the book, I Only Have an Hour. This is Dr. Bill with Inside HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Stick with us. We'll be right back after this break.
This is Carlos Brown, letting you know that we're on the move. You can now catch the Carlos Brown Show beginning this July on the Black College Sports Network each and every Saturday from 11 to 1 Eastern Time. That's 10 to 12 Central Time. Same time, new place. On Facebook at the Carlos Brown Show and Black College Sports Network. Online at www.mybcsn.net and on the BCSN app available on Google Play and the Apple App Store.
Let's get back to strolling instead of scrolling. Before we can safely come together, we need the facts on COVID-19 vaccines. Visit getvaccineanswers.org so you can make an informed decision for yourself and for your family.
Follow the Black College Sports Network on social media at MyBCSN1, the number 1, on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at MyBCSN1.
This is Dr. Bill with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. Hope you enjoyed that interview with brother Samuel Polk, man. He brought it. When you can find a way to weave those two stories, man, like you said, Charles, it goes a long way. I won't be surprised if you find a way to weave that into a dissertation. I see your mind working there.
Oh, yeah, man.
As promised, this is the debut of Dr. Cavill's 2021 HBCU Major Division Football Poll Rankings preseason poll. The top 10. It's when it gets fun and when it gets interesting. We're going to start with those receiving votes and get into the bottom 5. Receiving votes this year coming into the season. We're starting with Alabama State Hornets. They were 3-3 overall and 3-2 in the conference race. That is during the spring 21 season, and you'll have that mixed in here. You'll see the last season that people played, so that could be in the spring, or it could be back in the fall of 2019. They have 12 points. Norfolk State Spartans, 5-7, 4-4. In terms of what they did in the conference race, that was back in 2019 with 14 points. That is the MEAC and SWAC individuals respectively. Getting us to the team.
Look.
Yeah, it looks like we got to get Dr. Bill back up real quick.
Yeah.
Okay, Doc, can you go back to it? We kind of lost you real quick.
Yeah, you froze up for a second.
All right, for the receiving the votes, we just had Alabama State Hornets 3-3, 3-2, as they were in 2021. Out of the SWAC, Norfolk State Spartans 5-7, 4-4. That's 2019. 14 points out of the MEAC. And so remember, this poll will look at the last time teams played. So that could be the spring of 2021 or the fall of 2019. So you'll have a mix between that. So debuting in terms of number 10 this week in the poll rankings, episode 163, we had preseason wise number 10, Bethune-Cookman Wildcats 7-4, 5-3 in the conference. Last time they were part of the MEAC, that is 2019, 15 points. As you see them, number 10, bringing us to number 9. Prairie View A&M Panthers sit at 2-1. That was both overall in the conference as they played no conference games in the spring 2021, 16 points. Bringing us to number 8, that is Jackson State Tigers, 4-3, 3-2 in terms of the conference record, and that was the spring of 21, 23 points. Bringing us to number 7, South Carolina State Bulldogs out of the MEAC were 3-1 overall as they played 4 games this spring, 2021, 41 points. Bringing us to the last one of the bottom 5 is number 6. Alcorn State Braves sit at 9-4, 6-1, 1 first place vote. This is back their record from 2019 out of the SWAC. So that will do it for the bottom 5 of Dr. Bill's top 10 poll ranking. Before we get into the top 5, I want to go with you, Charles, with that funny looking face. What are your thoughts in terms of the teams in the preseason poll rankings? Those bottom 10 teams, 6 through 10. Bethune-Cookman, Prairie View, Jackson State, South Carolina State, and Alcorn State 10 through 6 in that chronological order. What are your thoughts, Charles?
Dr. Bill, it's fair. I think when you take a look at the spring rank, Alcorn at 6. I know my phone is about to take a hit with that because the Alcorn Brave fanatics don't want to hear nothing about being in the bottom tier of anything in terms of a poll. When they got the 2019 SWAC Offensive Player of the Year and Felix Harper and you Charles Pringle and Nico Duffy coming back, I think the Braves are going to be right there in the mix of everything. Got a chip on their shoulder, folks joking about them opting out and this, that, and the other. The Braves could be a little bit of a scary team, and we get to see them off the bat with the MEAC SWAC Challenge taking on North Carolina Central. So they're going to have a lot to prove, and they can't wait to take on this 2021 fall season?
Great point. Remember, they finished third in the end of the ranking after the loss to North Carolina A&T, and FAMU jumped over them. North Carolina A&T was number one. So they have some work to do. They did not end the season well when 2019 last played, as they lost and got blown out by North Carolina. It did not play in the spring. So all those things are to be considered. You know, you got to show it on the field. And the last time they got the chance to be on the field, it didn't end too well. With that, let me go to Mike. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm just going to call it like I see it, Doc. That number 6, it needs to be in the top 5. I don't care what you say. I don't care. Let me read off a couple of things. You know who the 2014 SWAC champion was? Oh, Alcorn State. Who's 2015? Oh, Alcorn State. Skipped a few years. Who was 2018? Alcorn State. Who was 20? Alcorn State. Who was spring 2021? Alabama A&M. Alcorn State not played. What does that tell you? They have a fervent, perpetual propensity for reloading. That's a little old 50-cent term. I'll tell you about it later. But that tells me they can reload. They have a chip on their shoulder. They're picked by the SWAC to be at the top. They have Felix Harper coming back. I'm telling you, them at number 6, outside of the number 5, that's the only one I have a concern with. Now, I'm sure that this show, or you or CB, will be hit up in all of your social media outlets about that one. That's all I'm going to say. I'll leave it right there.
I love it. I love it. Great point. We're going to take this quick break. We'll take this quick break. We'll come back with the top 5. You'll get to tell me about your top 5 and what you thought after I debut them. Then it sounds like both of you will be able to tell me who you're kicking out of the top 5 to allow Alcorn State to jump in the top 5. How about that? So stick with us. This is Dr. Bill inside HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop, Professor Washington, as they seem to want to teach me right now. We'll see what people say. But with that, stick with us. We'll be right back after this last break, heading into the fourth quarter. Top 5.
This is Brian Fulford. A.D. Drew and I are co-hosts of the BCSN Sports Wrap. We talk about all things related to HBCU athletics. From the games, teams, coaches, and fan interest stories, we cover it all. You can find our shows on Facebook at BCSN Sports Wrap, YouTube at MyJBN Online, and everywhere you listen to podcasts like Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find the show on the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Make sure to download. We look forward to you joining the conversation and being a part of the show.
True Black Essentials is a retail opportunity to bring Black businesses under one roof, where every product on every shelf in every aisle will be Black owned and Black produced by people all over the world. Statistics show that the $1.3 trillion of spending power that we have as Black people can easily be turned into each Black person having $2 million if we were to shop Black for 2 years. So True Black Essentials will launch an e-commerce store on November 1st, 2020, but we will open up brick and mortar stores in Atlanta, New Orleans, Charlotte, Houston, and Jacksonville, with the very first store opening in Atlanta, June 19, 2021.
Let's get back to getting ticks instead of watching flicks. Before we can safely get out there, we need the facts on COVID-19 vaccines. Visit getvaccineanswers.org so you can make an informed decision for yourself and for your crew.
Your ad could be ran here. MyJBN.com/support. MyJBN.com/support for more information.
Dr. Camille inside the HBCU Sports Lab. I love it. Troy said, Doc, you have lost your everlasting mind. I don't know if I'm going to have to put that F squared in Troy's life. That's a good one, though. I like that, Troy. And Dwight Moore said, I wonder who's in the Dean's top 5. Southern Pine Bluff FAMU, North Carolina Central. Let's see. You're right. Let's see. At number 5, North Carolina A&T Aggies finished 2019 93-6-2. Did not play in the spring. Won first place vote, 76 points. They moved over to the Big South. You have number 4, Florida A&M Rattlers, hit at 9-2-7-1. Last played in 2019. Won first place vote, 82 points. They move over to the SWAC. At number 3, you have Southern Jaguars, finished the spring at 5-1. Overall, 4-1. 2 first place votes, 97 points. They were defeated, and their only loss was to the number 2 ranked team, Arkansas at Pine Bluff. The Golden Lions set at 4-1, 4-0 overall, 20-21 was their record. Played for a SWAC championship and lost with 2 first place votes to the number 1 ranked team coming into the preseason. Alabama A&M Bulldogs earned the number 1 ranking in the postseason as they finished Black College National Champs spring of 21, finished with the SWAC championship. Alabama A&M Bulldogs were undefeated, 5-0 overall, 3-0 in terms of what they did in the conference race, 21-21, 5 first place votes, 112 points. They come in the preseason ranked number 1. Before you tell me who you kick out, I'm going to stick with you, Mike, and then go to Charles since I started with Charles last time. Mike, before you tell me who you put out, tell me first, what do you think about the top 5 programs? Do you agree with the number 1 team?
No, I have FAMU at number 1. Absolutely. Yes, indeed. They are loaded. The only question you have is quarterback, and they've made a couple of picks. I have Alabama A&M at number 2. You can flip it however you want to. If you're asking me what team I pull out, it's Arkansas Pine Bluff.
No, don't tell me who you pull out yet. That little team. Not too fast. So Mike got the speed trap on today, man. He wanted to give everything out. We're going to give the Mike back to you.
All right. Let me shut up. I'm sorry.
This is dialogue. You get to talk. Let me go to Charles. Top 5. What do you think about the top 5? And do you agree with the number 1 team, Charles, Professor Bishop? Professor Washington said, no way. He's going with FAMU as number 1. What does Professor Bishop say?
I think North Carolina A&T continues to be North Carolina A&T until they're not North Carolina A&T. They are the bullies, if you will, of the HBCU sporting world. They would have been my number 1. Shout out Lonnie Shaw. I know you sitting around watching and you agreeing with me on that.
Troy as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think, A&T will.
Troy said this is worse than BCSN declared FAMU national champion.
Now that is FAMU, and they're an interesting team to me. I think there are legitimate questions at quarterback. They lost Azende Ray as he is transferring to Georgia Tech. We'll see how that affects their passing game, and we're already having questions about the passing game. Leading rusher Bishop Bonnet, he had 420 yards when we, for the season when we last saw him. So I have legitimate questions about FAMU in terms of how explosive are they. I know they have quite a bit of talent. I know they Shotgun Simmons, he recruits well, this, that, and the other. But I think if there was a team that I might have slipped out of that top 5.
Hold up. Not yet. So
okay, now you can't bridle these quarter horses. You gotta let me and CD go now.
I know. Y'all got to spin this. We got to have some fun. You got to chime this up. We got to talk about the people. You got Marilyn Allen talking to Jerome Chief Sutton chiming in. Man, these folks are getting into this. We got to let them lather up a little bit. Y'all want to tease. Y'all don't want to tease anybody. This is called a tease. So, Charles, you said A&T number 1. You didn't tell us. You said why? Because you got to beat the man to beat the man. previous. And Mike, you said FAMU. Charles, you had problems with FAMU. Let me stick with you because you were about to say, who would you drop out of the top 5?
FAMU, I have legitimate questions, I think, with regards to their offense, but I thought, and I hope this didn't, go under the radar, but they bring in Ryan Stanchek as co-offense coordinator. And when we last saw him in the SWAC at Alcorn, putting together tremendous offensive lines and coordinate that offense.
So like Charles his bet. I like it.
That was a hell of a hire. I give them that. That was a hell of a hire. They got some. They brought in some nice pieces. Former Jackson State standout linebacker Milton Patterson also joining that staff as well. But I do have legitimate questions with regards to how explosive is this team. So they get a chance to prove me wrong off the bat against Jackson State.
Yep.
That's true. That's true. Mike, so who do you drop out of the top 5?
If I had to drop out any one of those, it would be Arkansas Pine Bluff. They would drop down to the number 6 because they still have Skylar Perry, but they've lost some pieces. They'll still be competitive, but in terms of what I know Alcorn State can do, they should be in the top 5, and I would drop out Pine Bluff. Southern, FAM, and A&T would move up. I do have questions about A&T being able to hang in a new conference. Will they get beat up? How competitive will they be? If we compare them relative to HBCUs, yes, but remember, they're going to a different conference. That's why, to me, I didn't have them. If they were still in the MEAC, I would have them number 1.
That's interesting, and some people say that. I don't think that highly of the Big South, so I think they will be able to get it done. I do have some concerns in terms of quarterback. I know they got a transfer in there, but as we talk about quarterbacks, it'll be interesting to see how that takes place with the live wire. I will say this about this season. Because of COVID, because of the transfers, because of those that didn't play in the spring, changes with coaches, how we're going to deal with how many people on the team get the COVID vaccination. I think this is one of the most wide open seasons, not only in terms of the conference races, whether you're talking about the SWAC, MEAC at the FCS level, same thing in CIAA and SIC. So I don't get any hurt feelings in terms of folks talking about you crazy or whatever, because you should have some expectation this year in your team because there's been so many changes and turnovers, not only with your team, but with other teams that you can legitimately put some things together and believe that your team can make it work. So I think nobody's going to be quite wrong or right in terms of this plays out. Somebody's going to have that magic Las Vegas ball, if you would, because they're going to be able to pull it out and be able to say, I told you so. But it's going to be fascinating. But legitimately, I think a lot of people can make the argument who's going to be that. I have this question for you as we're going to tune off. So this is going to be one of those that will put a pin in it. And I want those out there in the labs to have this discussion. And when we come back, we'll pull some of this out and you can come back and think about it. Obviously, you had the top 6 teams out of the MEAC. At number 6, you had Howard, 1 first place vote. At number 5, Morgan State, 1 first place vote. Delaware State, 1 first place vote. North Carolina Central, 2 first place votes. Norfolk State, 2 first place votes. And South Carolina State, preseason number 1, 5, as they did their media day on Friday. So we haven't shared that. 36, 48, 56, 78, 96, and 118 points respectively in terms of the bottom to the top. What I want to ask you to consider, that I want to play out, is which 6 teams is the toughest? Looking at the MEAC, those 6 teams, if you had to compare it to the SWAC Eastern Division or the SWAC Western Division, I want you, don't say it now, this is a tease. When you come back Thursday, you can think about it. I want you to tell me between the MEAC, the 16, the SWAC Eastern Division, the SWAC Western Division, which of those 6 teams has the toughest framework amongst those 6 teams that they have to play, either in the conference or division. The last assignment I want you to put together that I also want to make this a little more interesting. Once you've done that, this is your assignment and your homework, everybody out there, in terms of the professor. You asked for this. I want you to also tell me the top 3 teams. If you just looked at the top 3 teams, whether it's the SWAC Western Division, top 3 teams that you select out of the SWAC Eastern Division, or the top 3 teams out of the MEAC, and for funds and giggles, the top 3 independents, North Carolina A&T, Hampton, well, Tennessee State and Hampton in terms of basically the predicted order of finish. Amongst those 3, which one has the toughest role, would you say, is the toughest or best collection of 3 teams in a division, conference, or if we bring in the independents, what would you select? So I'm gonna tease you with that, give you some thoughts, come back on Thursday and we'll see what your thoughts are on that for a little bit. But with that being said, I do want to get your thoughts in terms as we get prepared to wrap it up. I want to get your thoughts on that for next week. Let me know. This is Dr. Revile inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Hope you enjoyed the show. As we come to a close, you know what we do. Thank you for listening to Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Make sure you share our podcast with your friends and colleagues. I am Dr. Untitled Chapter, the Dean of HBCU Sports, coming from inside the lab in the College of HBCU Sports with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. We hope you enjoyed our guest with Samuel Polk Jr. That is Brother Samuel Polk Jr. for some of us. Again, we want to thank you for listening to Dr. Revile's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop every Tuesday and Thursday right here at 6 o'clock. We look forward to next week as we discuss the latest news in the lab. Follow me, Dr. Kenyatta Caville, as DRKENYADIL. That's DRKENYATTACAVIL. That's Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Inside the HBCU Sports Lab 1 on Twitter, on Facebook and YouTube. That's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Dream big and continue to move forward. Remember, I want to see the top 6. Who you got, Charles? Nah, just the team. Don't do that. Mike?
Don't ask me. Don't ask me. I'll tell you right now.
No. Hold it. We will talk with you soon. Mike?
Of course.
Charles?
Lecture.
Dismiss.